One of the most difficult questions, it seems, on the recent mock exam involved one of the more straightforward questions as far as the use of the GDC is concerned. So let's have a look at it now. The question starts, clearly it's to do with a normal distribution, and you should be in a position to identify certain basic things then. So here we go, the normal distribution, and it has a mean of 502, and it has a standard deviation of 2 grams. Now, with that information, you're asked to draw a diagram. Hint, the diagram almost certainly is going to be the bell-shaped curve. And the width of the bell shape is not important. What's important is you show the examiner you understand something about the parameters given. And the first one is the mean. The mean is always in the middle. It's symmetrical. That's it. The next one is about the spread, and that's given by the standard deviation. And one rule you should be remembering is that almost all the distribution, not all of it, but almost all of it, falls within 2 standard deviations of the mean. What does that mean? Okay, well, there's one standard deviation would take us up to 504. That's a gap of 2. That's a standard deviation. So if I go up by 4, that's 2 standard deviations. And that's got most of the distribution covered. And so this would be 500, and this would be 498. That's too much information for 2 marks, so let's make it a little easier on you. All you need to do is actually label 1 standard deviation, okay? And you've got your 2 marks. You've shown the examiner you know what you're talking about. So let's move on to the question. Let's not do that. Let's move on to the question. Here we go. All right, so if I just tidy that up a bit, remove that, we're now looking at the question. It says boxes of cereal weigh between 2 amounts, and that boxes of cereals that they sell give them income of £2. Now you need to find the probability that a box of cereal chosen at random is sold. So the first question requires you to use the calculator to find the probability that you'll have a figure between that, greater than that, the weight, but less than that. In other words, this is the lower figure, and this is the upper figure. And this is where you turn to your GDC, because you have information that you've already shown the examiner you understand, and that is that the mean is 502, and that the standard deviation is 2. So we're going to use that information. We go over to the GDC, go into statistics, go into distribution, F5, go into normal, F1, and almost invariably you'll be using these 2 boxes here. In this case it's NCD. Now, just to avoid any panic, remember there are 2 formats you can use here, either list or variable. Almost all of you will be using variable all the time. It won't be a list. So if you see it the wrong, make sure it says variable. You then go and put in your upper value. So I know it's already written there, but we'll go through the process of inputting the lower value. My apologies, the lower value. The upper value is 505, and the standard deviation is 2, and the mean is 502. So all that information is there, and obviously I've recommended that you give the examiner as much options to give you a mark. You've given them the lower, you've given them the mean, and you've given them the standard deviation. So when you press execute, you're going to be just telling them that you know that the probability is 0.920968. So the answer is 0.920698, which most of us still round sensibly, that stick to the rule unless they say otherwise, of 3 significant figures. So that's the probability that you'll sell these things. And it says in part 2, calculate the manufacturer's expected daily income. Well, you know you're going to get $2 for each one you sell, but how many are you trying to sell? Go back. you are trying to sell 1,500 boxes. That's what they produce each day. So of those 1,500 boxes, you've got this chance of selling them all. If you sell them all, you're going to make $2. So come back out, go into a matrix, work out the answer, 1,500. Make sure you check what you're inputting. Not too excitable on the screen. Check your input, 0.921. Multiply that by $2 income. So that's 2763. 2763. That's the number of dollars that they make. And that section's done. Let's move on. The manufacturer recycles any box of cereal that's not got a weight. Notice straight away they're talking about the same boundaries that we've just worked on. But now they're interested in the boxes that didn't get sold. So if there's a chance of 0.921 that you sold them, then the probability that you don't sell it has to be 1 minus 0.921. And you can do that on your calculator as well. And that's 0.079. So that's the chance that the cereal is not sold. And if it isn't sold, the manufacturer recycles it at a particular cost. So again, the cost of recycling is based on the number of boxes they make times by the chance, times by the chance that they didn't sell it, times by the recycling cost. And again, 1,500 times by the chance that they don't sell it, times by the cost to recycle it so it can be sold. So their recycling cost is $18.96. And that is done. Moving on. A different manufacturer manufactures boxes of cereals in weights that are normally distributed. Okay, well, clearly you've got the same kind of problem. It's normal. Different parameters. So you could start by showing off something you don't need to do, but something you might help you understand the situation now. You've got another normal distribution. And you should understand straight away that it looks something like this. 350 and a standard deviation of 1.8. But this manufacturer actually knows they sell 97% of the cereal boxes they make. And it's because they're above a minimum weight W. So you want 97% above a particular weight. I hope you can appreciate that weight is going to have to be a fairly long way back in the left-hand end to make the right-hand end 97%. Now, you need to find that figure, little w. So the probability that your weight is greater than this unknown number, little w, is equal to 0.97. Again, we will have to use the calculator. Now, clearly, that is an area at the right-hand side. Obviously, I'm telling you now that's at the right as opposed to the left or the middle. You also have that the mean is 350, and you have that the standard deviation is 1.8. So let's go back to our calculator, back into statistics, back into distribution, normal, and this time you use the other button. Almost, as I said, remember, almost always it will be NCD or inverse N. We're now looking to go the opposite way. We want the number that gives a probability that we already have. So we press that one. Again, it's the var button we should be in. Don't trouble yourself with the list button. And our area can be in the left or the right or the center. We want it to be in the right. We want it to be 0.97. We want our standard deviation to be 1.8. And we want our mean to be 350. Having put that information in, and notice, done yourself a favor, tell the examiner what you're trying to do. Help them give you a mark. Once you've done that, you can press execute, and you get that the figure for W is equal to 346.614572. And I think rounded sensibly, that would be 346.6, or you could round it to 3 significant figures. And that's it. You need to get better at using the GDC.